The following is a presentation of the ForceCenter podcast feed.
From the center of the galaxy, this is the ForceCenter podcast feed, and this episode is Cues of the Force. Cues stands for questions, and the Force is the Force. I'm Joseph Scrimshaw.
I'm Ken Napzok. I don't understand the Force all the time, but I definitely am here to answer all the questions of the Force. So here we go.
It is the will of the Force that we should try. Might upset Yoda, but anyway. We want to let you know, as always, that today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. This week, we are recommending Shadow of the Sith by Adam Christopher, the big new Star Wars book. Really just having fun.
Yes.
Having fun with, I was going to say, connecting Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, which is true up to a point, but really playing with a lot of these big, interesting ideas that have been set off by the sequel trilogy. I'm only about 70 pages in, but I'm really enjoying it, so I can't wait to discuss it. If you want to listen to the book, you can download your free audiobook today by going to audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. One more time, that's audibletrial.com/ForceCenter for a free audio book. Ken, do you have any Shadow of the Sith thoughts that you want to share right now?
I have some questions. Yeah, I'm farther ahead, and you know, we always talk on ForceCenter. We take our time, read these books, make sure we digest them. We do our reviews and discussions a little bit after other people do, simply because we want to give you out there time to read them. But I am taking my sweet time with this one, which is helping me just sit back and enjoy everything here. And there's something 300 pages in, Joseph, I can't wait to discuss with you. You're on page 70. I cannot wait. I can't wait to discuss it on the show. So yeah, a lot of fun. Yeah, a lot of fun. Again, download your free audiobook today by going to audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Again, that's audibletrial.com/ForceCenter for your free audiobook.
Do it. All right, we're going to get into our questions. We have 2 from Twitter, 2 from our patrons on Patreon. As always, we go first to Twitter and Daniel Mormack. Daniel says, so not sure if this is a good question, but what for you was enhanced in the Skywalker saga the most by the Obi-Wan Kenobi series? For me, it was oddly the deaths of Owen and Beru. When I thought of A New Hope, I had always assumed they walked out bewildered, maybe worried Luke did something dumb, and then dead. A pretty sad ending showing the evil of the Empire. But upon seeing the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, I think they saw the Empire coming, and maybe they thought they figured it out and came out swinging. Maybe that trooper in the Sarlacc in Book of Boba Fett was dumped by them. Regardless, they came out to protect their Luke. A parent's love was on full display. Made it more sad, but somehow loving. Odd to say, considering the horror, but it was a big thing to me. Those are some great Owen and Beru thoughts that I do not think Daniel is alone on. But also, Daniel started this with saying, not sure if this is a good question, but what was enhanced in the Skywalker saga by Obi-Wan Kenobi series? I think that is a great question, a powerful question, worthy of a ranked episode, perhaps, Ken. I have a lot of thoughts, and I know you do too, on what was enhanced. But let's start with Owen and Beru. How do you feel about the sight of their defeated corpses? There's been memes about how that was a trick and they faked out the stormtroopers. There's been a lot of people like Daniel wondering, like, how many troopers did they take down with them? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you're not alone there. I think that's one of my favorite moments now in rewatching A New Hope, which is, it is weird to say. Then you can go to the Boba Fett theories, which were interesting for a while, but let's just look at Owen and Beru and what they did for Luke all those years. And now to know that maybe they just were able to put up some kind of fight, everything. It is part of what I love, what this show has done for that movie. In the last couple weeks here at ForceCenter, I keep using this word like energy. The Kenobi series has given me new energy toward New Hope, like a movie I've grown up with, movie I love, but it's not always the movie I put on first to play anymore. I have watched it like almost 2 times, like one kind of in one sitting. And I even had it on this morning for this question. And I'm enthralled by it now in a way I haven't been in years, and that's the show. So a lot of it is with Owen Beru, and I was always, like a lot of people, it was frightening just thinking that nice lady and the guy, yeah, he was okay, but they just got fried. They got fried, and were they trying to run away? And I used to be terrified of that as a kid, much like hair affected you and I and bars. That's just something. It really broke my heart, and it's still there. It's still heartbreaking. But to know that, hey, maybe they did take a few out before they went, oddly enough, it does provide me a little extra comfort.
Yeah, no, I really agree with you. I think the ideas in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series certainly are, make the prequels more bittersweet, but they resonate out to the original trilogy, sequel trilogy too, but original trilogy in particular, A New Hope specifically. I wonder if on Disney Plus, A New Hope has jumped up. Not that it's people's only way to view it, but it's the sort of the quickest if you already have Disney Plus. So I bet those numbers jumped. Yeah, I really loved Owen and Beru in this series. It was a little bit of justice for Owen, where you understood that gruff, maybe a little bit worried and keeping Luke too down on the farm, but definitely loves the kid. He is my own. And Beru just lined up so perfectly to me that she's the realist in A New Hope of like, good, bad, or otherwise, we're not keeping him down on the moisture farm because that's not who he is. It has nothing to do with reality. She's realistic with philosophy and a sawed-off space shotgun. So I just love her as this loving character, but a realist. So for my headcanon now, this is the way I see it playing out, sadly, on the Lars homestead, right? That they're maybe a little older. They're a little let their guard down maybe a little bit slower. But I think they still have those motion detectors.
Yeah.
And I think they saw the stormtroopers coming. I think they maybe took out a few. I think maybe it was like a standoff. And the stormtroopers had to resort to smoking them out, right?
Yeah.
That they were being dropped as they approached, and so they firebombed the homestead, and that's the sad result we get. That's my new headcanon.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's that tracks for me. Yeah, it does now. Yeah, and I don't know. Like again, I grew up thinking that she's making blue milk and he's just tinkering, and next they're dead. Like and that always upset me in a way that the story it was supposed to, right?
It was supposed to, yeah.
Supposed to. But now I have her going, Owen, grab your blasters. We're going out to Blaze of Glory or whatever it is. And I can turn it into an action sequence. And again, provides a false comfort, I guess, because in the end, the result's the same. But
yeah, it's really fun to imagine. I wonder if, much like there's been like reimaginings of Kenobi and Vader's fight in A New Hope, if fan films aren't being made right now of the last stand at the Lars homestead.
I could do a Young Guns version or Young Guns 2 version where she turns to Owen and says, I shall finish the game. And it's the last stand of the regulators. I can go for that.
Yeah, we've lived for years with blue milk. Now it is time for blue Molotov cocktails hurled by Beru White Sun Lars.
Yeah, there you go.
So we could talk about just Owen and Beru, but of course Daniel opens up this larger question that, going to be hard to contain ourselves, Ken, about what was most enhanced in the entire Skywalker saga by Obi-Wan Kenobi. Where do you go? What are some of the big things for you?
I essentially just went to one because I think I subconsciously was going to stop myself from going to a lot of spots. And Beru and Owen comes to mind a lot. A lot of people are online celebrating Kenobi, looking over at the twins and going, great, they're reunited. My work here is done with the Vader fight and all that stuff. You and I had a discussion on the Vader fight that we'll continue to have. So, but I went to one little one that it almost, you mentioned like fan edits or YouTube videos. There's for years been that Kenobi one of, his speech, to Luke in the hut. And then it's, interspersed with the Clone Wars footage and this and that. And those are always kind of fun for me. I almost have that kind of vibe when he's watching Leia's recording in the hut of exposition after 3PO takes his nap. And there's just a flash. There's a flash on Guinness's eyes. And how many times have you heard me talk about the way Guinness played so many things is just tip of the iceberg storytelling in and of itself. Like just the space and story Guinness put into his face, it allows you to tell more stories in Star Wars. Him just having this kind of flash over to Luke, and you can read it in a lot of ways, but now like the series pops in my mind, and it's almost like that all pops in his mind, and all the way to the last beats with Brea and Bale, where he's like, well, hey, you know where to find me. And for him to realize, oh, it's go time. I've already got some feelings. We know some stuff. You got the great Obi-Wan Qui-Gon short story from a certain point of view, canon adjacent, if you want to go that direction. But he's got a sense of something's coming. But there's just this, when like the messages from her, and he knows what this means. It's almost the version of when he hears the beeping sound of when Bale's first calling him of, oh, that ain't good. So I watched it this morning, and I call it go time, where Kenobi's like, this is really happening. And it isn't like, oh, it's time for Luke to be trained. Oh, I got a message from that young lady, his sister that I know years ago. It's none of that. It is. And it's not even about the Death Star hanging over the whole thing like a ticking clock. I don't know if he's aware of that at that point. You know what I mean? It's a space station, all that stuff. It's still in front of him, right? So he doesn't know. He's not getting the newspapers.
He doesn't know that.
Yeah. He's not getting the newspapers on the Death Star. It is the fact that it is her invoking the name of her father, and Luke's with him. The sister's calling him, and he's like, it's time. And I love that.
Yeah, no, I think I've always kind of had a little bit of, I think, support in various narratives, but a little bit of a headcanon that this moment was really about sometimes the Force speaks quietly and sometimes the Force screams.
Yeah.
Bellows without any ability to mistake it. And I've always liked that about the Hut of Exposition scene, but I think it makes it even richer now, this connection to Leia, for sure. I've always loved this idea that, and I think it's enhanced by the end of Obi-Wan Kenobi of like, I'm going to back off and give Luke a little bit of space. I will train him when the time is right. Luke and Leia can't escape their destiny in that they are, strong, powerful, important, valuable people. They are the potential leaders of the next generation. The Empire will want things of them. Their fate is going to come for them one way or another. And when their fate comes for them, I want to be here for them to help guide them into the next steps, right? So if he's really like, I took a step away and I waited until the time was right. Luke's in trouble. Enough trouble that I got to go get him. And, what is he in trouble about? His father is chasing his sister to me, and he wants to rescue his sister. And the damn droids are here too.
Yeah.
The ones who got invited to Anakin and Padme's wedding when I didn't. Those damn droids are here too. The Force is telling me now is the time. Yeah, and everything in that scene just continues to become more and more rich to me. Almost like the end of the scene, once he has listened and understood what's at stake in the hologram message from Leia. That, when he says, I'm getting too old for this sort of thing, I need your help. She needs your help. That has even more weight of like, I've been on these kinds of missions. I know what it's like. It is your time, Luke. Fate is calling. It is time for you, the next generation, to step up because I know what this is and she needs you, Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's an absolutely great one. I think for me, some of those scenes with Kenobi really tie into the great big theme that is all over Star Wars, but I think is really concentrated on the Obi-Wan Kenobi series about being there for the next generation, which is, there's a lot of trauma in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show about failing the younger generation, exposing them to harm. Bringing them into sort of a cycle of violence and all that. But I think within it, there's also just this real knowledge that the next step for, an aging hero is to mentor the next generation. And I see that echo out a lot, that big theme. Couple other little quick things. Vader's obsession with Kenobi. We talked about it on our upcoming lightsaber fight show. Just the sheer number of times that Vader mentions Kenobi in the original trilogy. It all tracks logically, and it always has. But now it really is just like, Vader, do you think about anything else? Do you have posters of him on your wall? His obsession with Kenobi, that Kenobi is this symbol of, in order for me to prove to myself that I am the master, that I am all powerful, I needed to beat him, and I never did, That's really powerful. Leia stuff. You did a great video about Leia put out over the weekend. It was really powerful to me that she's always been the princess who saved herself, the princess who is a diplomat but can also pick up a blaster. fact this show demonstrates her seeing that and making that choice. Huge.
Yeah.
Final one for me very quickly, because we haven't talked about it a lot. I want to be sure to mention it. Obi-Wan giving Luke the T-16 Skyhopper toy. I'm sure there's some fans who don't like it, and I understand, and I think I saw some takes where like, oh, we don't have to explain where everything came from. And for me, I get that and I respect that, but it isn't about, this is a plot hole. Where do you get that toy? It's not about let's explain something. It's to me about let's add some richness to something that is already there. I love that dialogue early in that first episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi where, you know, there's a big galaxy out there and he needs to know about it. That's what the toy symbolizes. It symbolizes Obi-Wan trying to make a connection, but also just like, he needs to know that he is a part of something much, much larger. Yeah. And the idea that Obi-Wan gave him that toy and that toy helped him dream of having adventure, of a larger world, it just goes right along with what Obi-Wan says to Luke when he's training him on the Falcon of, you know, you've taken your first step into a much larger world. Like the Skyhopper toy feels like the very beginning of like, there's a bigger galaxy. Yeah. And then you'll see there's an even bigger, you know, reality in the Force. I just love it.
No, yeah, no, I think I even understand sometimes the cynicism of, maybe he just we don't need to know how he got the toy and everything. But when it's used to that, I don't know, that successful degree, it's just, it does add to it and means a lot to me as a fan. And again, I'll say that, not everything needs to be explained. But that one was really effective. And it just made a lot of sense. I don't think I ever imagined it once we start getting more storytelling in this modern era, including from a certain point of view where he's carving the little wood toys. I think I started to subconsciously just assume that came from Obi-Wan, but to actually see it and have big meaning. It's again, why I love revisiting New Hope right now.
Yeah, absolutely. To see and imagine Obi-Wan's happy face saying hello there while Luke's, absentmindedly playing with it. So powerful. And I'm with you. I there's so much obviously that I love about Obi-Wan Kenobi, but I do think that I'm hungry for some new in Star Wars, and I do understand a little bit of the frustration of kind of going to the well of seeing different things that we've seen before and giving them new context. I think for me, what makes a difference is, does it feel like a little nod that's fun for fans, or does it feel like it added meaning? And to me, this added meaning in a really beautiful way. But I am also in the camp of, yep, definitely time for some new.
Yeah, no, we can live in both.
Exactly. Great question, Daniel. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to our next question from Strat Carter. I really love when listeners have names that sound like they should be in Star Wars. Strat Carter is a great name. Strat says, greetings, Ken, Joseph, and Jennifer. Saw Gerrera evolved from brash freedom fighter to extremist. In my opinion, had he been a Force user, he would have been steeped in the dark side. Do you think his path would have been the same had his sister lived? Peace, says Strat Carter. Great quote of Boss Nass. Please. So, Ken, let's break this up. First, do you agree that that Saw is tipping into the dark side from a certain point of view?
From a certain point of view, I thought you would say, do I first agree that Strat Carter belongs in Star Wars? And the answer is yes. Strat Carter flies your X-Wing and gets you out of trouble. Love that. I love this question. We talk about Saw so much here, and we're going to be talking more about Saw because we ain't done hearing Saw stories, seeing Saw stories. I think, and this is what's so intriguing about this character is there's so much of like, you nod and go, no, I get where you're coming from, Saw. So I wonder if he had tapped into dark side officially, not saying he's a Force user or anything like that, but how much it would have been like, we make the necessary rage joke, which is a reference to a beat that we didn't get in episode 9, thankfully. But how much would have he have been kind of in that camp of like, no, if tapping into the dark side allows me to get victory over the bad, like then I need to take that step. And would he have gone a bridge too far? Would he have taken a step too deep of it? Because I think, Steela was absolutely the true leader of the bunch, right? and I think the one to temper Saw's darkest urges, and also the one to push him towards hope. So I think that's the big loss from him. And so I could see that. I could see that in some ways. Again, is he pulling out a red blade? Maybe not, but maybe a red painted blaster.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think this is great. Yeah, I really, really enjoyed on our rewatch seeing the amount of thought and philosophy that went into that arc on Onderon that introduced us to Steela and Saw, and in particular, this sort of question of, when you are being oppressed in there, you can't find any way out but taking direct action, right? There's just not another way out. Direct action has to be taken. Okay, then how do you keep your soul while you're doing that? And Steela was this great balance of, yeah, you have to take action. Unfortunately, you do need to use violence sometimes in this extreme situation, but we should never lose sight of what we're fighting for. We want connection. We want communication. We want to inspire people. We don't want this to just become about anger. We want this to be about, we are fighting for something better. We want to keep our battle to be about hope, not about anger and vengeance. And I think that that arc is this great tragedy of, Steela is the kind of leader that the rebellion needed early on, right? To keep that, like, yes, absolutely. In order to save lives, every once in a while we have to use violence, but we should avoid it whenever possible, and we should communicate and inspire and all those things. And I think Saw is a character who, in that original Onderon arc, is just really kind of pushing for action, moving too fast, not looking at the big picture. And I think, the added tragedy of losing Steela and then being like, look, I told you that this is the way the government was going to go with the Empire. I think that he does start dabbling in pure vengeance. Yeah. That on paper, you could say like, okay, yep, you need to take this Imperial target out strategically. Yep, okay, on paper, there's no other opportunity to do it except for when you're getting collateral damage. Yeah. And it really takes you to this dark place where I think Star Wars often says that actions matter, but also why we take them matters to our souls, right? And I think that Saw maybe was really good at saying we're being too cautious. We have to take action, but that some of his action is coming from a place of vengeance, right? Yeah. Of I will do anything to defeat the Empire, and that he's living in this hatred of the Empire. He's not living in the hope for something better, Yeah, no, blood for blood and that kind of thing. And look, his own violence directly led to her death, and he's clearly struggled with the weight of that. But again, it is this fight. You're right. Steela's there to for the fight, and I think outside of just in terms of story, outside of Padme's death, I think Steela's death is one of the biggest tragedies for the rebellion that would soon spring up. Right, like. She becomes a leading general in the Rebel Alliance. Saw follows her down that path, I think. And I think he's still, just because of already what we saw in that Onderon arc, he could have been frustrated at times. He could have been like, we got to put our flippers down like Radis and fight. I could see that. Yeah. He's impatient, and he could have felt they weren't doing enough, but she's there as a leader of the rebellion if she survives. Yeah. Yeah. I just think that's such a big and interesting idea of, when you're in a position like somebody like Saw Gerrera who has things to be legitimately angry about, do you manage to transform the anger into proactive action to make a better future, or do you indulge the anger a little bit? Do you enjoy punching back for the sake of punching back, not because you have to make things better, but because in that moment the vengeance feels good to you? And I think that's the moral ambiguity of Saw. He takes a lot of big action at times that people weren't taking action. He probably does help a lot of people, but what's it doing to his soul? I feel like by the time we meet him in Rogue One, when he says there isn't much left of me, he's not just talking about his foot. He's talking about his soul, Yeah, absolutely. Such a fascinating character. Fallen Order, Bad Batch 2. I do believe Andor, right? I can't forget what was officially confirmed or not, but
Can't wait. There's just because of what he represents, and more of him and Mothma screaming at each other. It's interesting stuff.
Valuable, interesting conversations. This is a great question, Strat. Thank you very much. So we're going to move on from some Saw thoughts.
Yeah.
Take a quick break, and then we'll be back with our questions from our patrons on Patreon. And we are back for more questions of the Force. We're going to our patrons on Patreon first, to Will Culbertson. Will says, "Hi, ForceCenter friends. One of my favorite things that came out of the build-up to Attack of the Clones was the release of the Across the Stars music video. I was studying theater and music in college at the time, and a combination of new Star Wars music intercut with scenes from the movie, as well as behind-the-scenes footage, just hit me on every level. It was a worthy successor to the Duel of Fates music video that had debuted before The Phantom Menace 3 years prior, and I can't tell you how many times I downloaded it online back when that took a long time to do. Anyway, that got me thinking about this modern era of Star Wars and how much I would have loved getting those types of music videos as part of the build-up to the new movies we got starting in 2015. So my question is this: which of the 5 Disney-era films would you most like to have had a music video made for, and what music would it have featured? I personally would choose Han's theme from Solo, not only because it's a wonderfully rousing musical number, but the chance to see some behind-the-scenes footage of John Williams collaborating with John Powell on the score would be fantastic. Thanks. Thanks to you, Will. This is a great memory and a great question. Ken, here's where I want to start. Did you rewatch this Across the Stars music video for this question?
I didn't. I brought up the soundtracks on online on streaming, and was just listening to some of the tracks that I might want to answer in this question, and I just kept the music on, and I was listening to the Attack of the Clones soundtrack, and we were about to record. I was like, damn it, I was going to go watch it on YouTube, so I didn't. And I'm glad he brings it up, because the Phantom Menace video, the Duel of the Fates stuff, gets the headlines, understandably. It was on TRL, but yeah, Across the Stars in the video was pretty big as well. So good call, Will.
Yeah. I think I maybe downloaded it once in that great summer of 2002. I rewatched it this morning. I found it on YouTube, and we've noted that before with some of the prequel advertising. That video would never be released today. There is so much footage in it from the film, including scenes that didn't end up in the film. There's a shot of Bail Organa in Palpatine's office saying, "We must stop them before they're ready."
Yes,
there's a different take of Obi-Wan and Anakin right outside the Outlander Club when Anakin's saying something about, like, not the same lesson again, and Obi-Wan is saying, "You haven't learned anything, Anakin." And I love that this lightsaber, this weapon is your life, that whole conversation. But, there's some weird things going on with Obi-Wan's beard in that scene.
Yeah.
And this little shot of them is like, there's nothing weird going on with Obi-Wan's face. And then it's called Across the Stars, and Across the Stars is the main body of it in the middle, but then there's lots of other little, themes from the film. And there's so many shots from the film. It's so fascinating. It would never be released today. But it was really rousing and fun to rewatch. So I just enjoyed seeing it again. I haven't thought about it in a long time, because people mostly talk about the Phantom Menace one. Yeah. So I'm so curious to think about, would you want a music video to be for the question here, one from a modern film? Would you have, if there was a Solo one, would you have wanted just like behind the scenes of, John Williams working on it, talking to people, talking to Ron Howard, or would you have wanted just shocking amounts of footage from the Solo film in the music video?
You got to have both. Look, I'm a fan of I'll watch We Are the World, and I love when all the artists show up in the limos before, and they're just having coffee with Quincy, and they're just about ready to do. I love all that stuff. So yeah, that's great. No, and The Adventures of Han would have been one of my choices if Will, you didn't take my answer. No, I it's such a great song and a great way to just it's a little bit of a rock radio single for a Star Wars soundtrack. And you're right. I'm the moment we stop recording, I'm watching the Across the Stars video, because can you imagine in 2002 there would have been a bunch of Star Wars podcasts going, what were there reshoots? What happened here? Where are these scenes?
Yes,
would have been a thing. Would have been a thing.
It would have been a whole thing.
Would have been a giant thing. And as you're talking about it, I remember some of those scenes now popping up in the back of my mind. But to your question, I absolutely would want to strike a balance. Scenes from the movie, BTS stuff. Yeah, we're in a different era of spoilers. Even I deal with spoilers different than I did in 2002. It's just the way it is now. I can't fully explain that. But yeah, I would have been on board for that.
Yeah, I mean, if a video like Attack of the Clones came out for the next film, this podcast and many others would do like 3-hour episodes on the amount of footage.
Yes. Yes.
It's like 8 trailers in like a 4-minute music video worth of content. Yeah. So I think for myself, I would love a music video like that in that tradition, but with maybe a little less footage from the actual film.
Yeah.
But to play this fun game, I think the song that I would want in the movie that I would want is I would want Rey's theme, not from The Force Awakens, but from The Rise of Skywalker, with some flashes there. Once the relationship had really been built, some images of John Williams and Daisy Ridley together. I know you love this too, Ken, but I've always loved Rey's theme. It's the first thing that struck me musically in The Force Awakens, and I love in Rise of Skywalker all of the different variations. That show Rey's growth and change. So it would have been great if they released a music video called Duel of the Dyad from Rise of Skywalker, but it was mostly Rey's theme in different iterations.
Yeah, this is one of those times where I'm not even going to on the fly change my answer. That's exactly what I put, almost down to the notes. Really? And in the back of my head, I'm like, there's a good chance Joseph and I might have the same main answer here. But I just you think of just a music video and going into a film, right? This is kind of part of the question of going. This is helping to promote Attack of the Clones, helping to promote the Phantom Menace. So we're going to help promote The Rise of Skywalker. And then to your other question of how much do you actually want to see in the music video, but taking all those versions together from the sweet, naive, innocent start to the rock and roll version as they're fighting on Exegol, it's an amazing journey of music, and you put them all together and do a special cut of it. And exactly, we got so much footage. Daisy, well, one of the same. Daisy Ridley getting the signed music copy of Rey's theme from John Williams, and she's crying, and Kathleen Kennedy's holding her, all those kind of things, and young baby Daisy on set in Force Awakens, all that would be fantastic to watch, and all that leading into the movie. They better have footage of Williams at the Hollywood Bowl telling everyone, like he always does, Rey's why I came back, and I don't want anyone else to write this theme. I think it would be an event. It would be an event video, and that's why I stand by it as our collective answer here today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sure it's being cut together now, I'm sure, by somebody on YouTube who's going through this entire process. That would be a really fun, they'd make all those great, what would a trailer look like in the style of this time for this film? I would love music videos that do the same. Great question, Will. Thank you very much, Ken. Are you ready for our final question?
I am, but I'm going to, there's one, I had a backup answer.
Oh, you did?
And I'm surprised. Good. I was like, but Joseph definitely would choose it. Chicken in the Pot. the movie version, which I think they eventually did release on the soundtrack, right?
They did in the expanded solo soundtrack.
There you go. Chicken in the Pot, party footage, BTS of them shooting the party. Just a real fun, jazzy Star Wars single to release. I'd be on board for that.
Oh, absolutely. The full uncut performance of the entire song. It's a great song. Yeah. And you cut to Imperials making deals on Dryden's yacht.
Yeah.
Yep. Maybe there could be some fresh footage of Lulilo Primac and Rhodia Ventifoli arriving in limos like the We Are the World music video.
Yes. There you go.
Arriving in space limos. Oh, that was a very good addition. Thank you, Ken. All right. Now we'll move on to our final question from Jonathan Curti. Jonathan says, hello, ForceCenter friends. I really love the scene toward the end of episode 6 of Kenobi, where Obi-Wan shared a bit about Padme and Anakin with Lil Leia. Got me thinking about how tragic it is that we never get to see Padme, Anakin, Luke, and Leia together as a family. And then a new thought hit me. Padme and Anakin could have been Han Solo's mother and father-in-law. My mind was blown with the fun possibilities. for a little fantasy headcanon, in an alternate reality where Padme and Anakin lived to be parents and Leia still ended up with Han, what do you think Han's relationship with each of his in-laws would have been like? Go wherever your heart takes you. In my heart, I believe upon hearing that Han had made the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs, Anakin would have gone out the door to do it in fewer than 11.
That's exactly right.
Love the show, Jonathan. Well, I mean, this is going to be fun because I don't think we're going to come up with a better answer than Jonathan's, but we'll offer some runner-ups because that is perfect. This is really fun. I want to pull back a little bit. And obviously, there's a lot of art of this sort of like the what if. There's an image that I saved because it just kind of broke my heart of like it's a fan drawing of, infant Luke and Leia, toddler Luke and Leia playing on the beach, and Padme and Anakin are there. And so is Uncle Obi-Wan. And it's like, oh, it breaks my heart. Do you like thinking about that what if it all worked out, or do you get challenged by it?
I get challenged by it in the way of, number one, it would have been great. What a wonderful happy ending, right? The Emperor he dies, nothing happens, goes wrong. But then we don't get it. And I'm not trying to turn to some philosophy here, but like it's just like you don't get the good without the bad that happens, and it's horrible stuff that happens. So would I rather have Padme alive? Yeah, I would. Versus let's just grow through the tragedy of the Death Star. You know what I mean? But it's like it's hard for me to separate the story we got and have fun with it. But this is a great question from Jonathan, and can lead to fun spots as well, including this parsec run is the answer. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's fun. That's the point of a tragedy, is to make you feel like, oh, but what if, what if Mace and Anakin had worked together and arrested Palpatine and everything worked out? What would that world been? It's bittersweet to think about, but that to me is at least partially the point of tragedy. And this is great to think about the honest relationship. There's you can see jokes about Vader being like, "Don't date my daughter" to Han Solo, which is like fun and funny and all that. Especially thinking of him as Vader, not Anakin. But really thinking through what's that actual relationship like between all of them, between Padme and Anakin and Han and Leia. Where do you go? What are some of the scenes you imagine, Ken?
And I'm not here to cast it as a sitcom that Padme's the dour, wet blanket, everything, but she definitely would have some thoughts on Han and him not choosing sides, or him just being one unto himself, depending on when they met. She'd have some issues. She had some issues. She'd have some thoughts. So I don't want to miscast her there. You know what I mean? And also she'd have fun. I think she'd appreciate his spirit and appreciate what he brings to her daughter. She probably knows, hey, she needs that, and he probably needs her more than the other way around. So I envision a lot of that around the dinner table. A lot of him going, I don't know, I've seen a lot of crazy things in the galaxy, and she's like, enough of that cynicism, enough of that. Standoffness. You need to join the fight here that's going on. But again, to the bigger question, what kind of fight would there be? But there's still light and still dark, and there's still hope and fear and all those kind of things that she'd want him to get plugged into.
Yeah. I really love that Padme would have no time for the it doesn't matter, don't get involved energy that Han could potentially have. Love that. My mind at first went to just Padme having lots of good advice for Leia about here's the pamphlet, 101 facts about being married to a hothead.
Yeah.
I think Padme would also I really like the idea of Padme and Leia having these similar experiences where we really were raised to be there for other people. We really believe in being leaders. We really believe in deal with what we need later, but first do your duty and do what you need to be there for everybody. But I can see Padme really pulling Leia aside and saying, it's okay. He's charming. He loves you. Give yourself some room to have that in your life. Make some room for Han in your life. I think Padme would be very kind to Leia about that. For the Padme Han relationship, I kind of feel like Han would be deeply, deeply intimidated by Padme, right?
Oh yeah, uncomfortably.
She's so wise and I was going to say worldly galaxy that I think Han would be like I don't want to have dinner with your mother-in-law because I don't know which fork to use. I spill things on my shirt, and Leia'd have to be like, she doesn't care about those kind of things. She sees your spirit. And if your spirit's where it needs to be, that's what my mom cares about. And he's like, yeah, but I'm going to stick my foot in my mouth again. Did you hear that Nemodian joke I made? I forgot they tried to murder her like 1,000. I shouldn't have said that about the Trade Federation. Like, I think Han would be so intimidated and just cannot do a single damn thing right in front of Padme.
Yeah, truly intimidated and just like defensive, like ready to, have to argue about his choice of career and everything like that. But again, this Padme is, I don't see her as being the old grumpy one at the table. I think she probably would approach it with an open heart, probably get it. And I love what you're bringing in of her being able to tell young Leia, hey, don't take a moment for yourself. And that's not a bad thing. And this is something that you need to, pursue with Han, and I get it. That said, here's some things about him. Just letting you know.
Here are some things that you should be aware of. Yeah. So where do you go with the relationship between Anakin and Han?
There, without a doubt, there'd be a totally ego-filled competition between the two of them, but in a loving way. It would be. At the end of the day, they have a beer down at the Outlander Club, and Anakin goes, "I get you, kid. I like you. But yeah, I could see that. And let's not forget, Anakin is, for better or worse, has chosen some sides in his life. So I don't know if he'd be fully accepting of Han not caring. I don't know. I think they could have a little bit of arguments on how to handle things in the galaxy.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I think Anakin would not be a fan of Han's chosen form of communication of finger pointing, right?
Oh, yeah. Get your finger out of my face. Yeah.
Nobody pokes a finger at the chosen one, I think, would be Anakin's attitude.
I'm the chosen one. Don't you do that.
You just see him with his hands clasped behind his back while Han's pointing everywhere.
Yeah.
I think... I think it's easy to make the jokes about Anakin being overprotective, and I think that there is, of course, we all, as various family members, particularly, I think, parents, want to be protective of our children. I think there's also that it can slide into being controlling, right? Like dad chooses for his daughter.
Yeah.
And I want to be really mindful of that because I think that's kind of a stereotype that can go around and can be kind of a joking thing that can be not great because it is about the dad choosing for the daughter, right?
Yeah,
and not giving the daughter agency as her full own person who makes her own choices about who she dates, marries, etc.
Yeah.
And I think actually that might be a part of the story that Anakin, even if he didn't fall to the dark side, I still think would wrestle with. He has such compassion, he has such instinct to protect the people he loves that he would be very overprotective of Leia. And I think both Padme and Leia would be like, back off, Dad.
Yeah.
We know it's coming from a good place, but Leia is capable of choosing for herself. So back off. I think that would be a vibe. And then I think, boy, does Jonathan nail it with the pilot connection.
So great.
The pilot connection and the Tinkerer. Here's my little story that I think plays out of the relationship between Anakin and Han is terrible. It's unspeakably bad. It's awful. I think partially Anakin desperately wants to fix the Falcon, right? Like, how could Master Tinkerer Anakin Skywalker not walk on there and go like, you have everything set up wrong?
Yeah.
But the way you have jury-rigged the Falcon is madness. It is a nightmare. I need to fix it, right? And Han would not want him to touch the Falcon, right? So then they get into some sort of crisis where they have to work together to fix the ship, right? In order to get out of it. And Anakin and Han are there together, tinkering on the Falcon, making it work so they can escape. And I think they have like this breakthrough bonding moment where Han finally opens up a little bit to Anakin about his own childhood, about not really having a father figure who was there for him. And I think Anakin would melt a little. And I think they'd bond a little over their sort of shared childhood trauma. And then I think things would get better. But they would still communicate mostly in grunts and head nods. But it would be with better understanding.
Yeah. That's a great ending. I love that story. Let's write it. This is the Skywalker family sitcom. Yeah, and like I just see Anakin. Yeah, I like that you brought in the good parts of his heart and soul that are there and perhaps there to the end, but just the the intentions might be good with I know what's on his mind because I get Han, and Leia, you need to stay away, and then Padme having to sit him down and be like, this is another learning point for you. Anakin, anger over this situation is normal, but we got to push past it. So but at the end of the day, I see them finally coming to some sort of peace, maybe a little bit later in life, but
Yeah, a little bit later in life. Maybe it takes Han having Kylo, or Ben, rather.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. My final thought on all of this is just to make things more awkward and tense. I think Anakin and Chewie just love the hell out of one another. And it is so annoying to Han that like they absolutely get along. Anakin understands Chewie. All Chewie can do no wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Anakin's just like, not sure about your husband. His co-pilot's great, though.
Great. Yeah. Come, hey, Chewie, come in the garage here. I want to show you what I did with my speeder. What are you doing? And Han's like, hey, what do you got? Yeah. And then Chewie's like, I mean, I knew, you know the guy Yoda? I hung out with Yoda once. Yeah. Great time. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely great stuff. Any final thoughts on that one?
No, very fun. Jonathan, great question. Love the Kessel Run bit. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely great. Well, that is it for our questions, but we have an entry in our Power of the Light Side segment. If you are a patron on Patreon, we have a post. I think it's like one post down now, but it is a call for entries in Power of the Light Side. And this is just a segment where we ask patrons for something joyful from Star Wars to help increase the power of the light side. Could be a character, could be a moment, could be something they've learned from Star Wars. And that is what our entry is today from Lou Stout. Here's what Lou has to say. I've been thinking for a few days on exactly how I wanted to phrase this. And even now, this is my third draft. With all the darkness already in the world, it's more important than ever to look for and try to embrace the light side. So it brings up the discussion of why do people get angry at Star Wars? And I think the answer can be found within Star Wars itself. I believe that adults who have grown up watching Star Wars are longing for a return to a time when things were brighter and desperately want these stories to fill them with the same euphoria now it did when they were children. But that's not how the Force works. Resisting the darkness is a daunting task. Any crack in our defenses and it could potentially consume us and cause us to project our own frustrations, insecurities, and disappointments on the writers, actors, and even other fans by means of hurtful words and a blatant disrespect for others. But luckily, this is one time where I'm glad Yoda was wrong, because it's not forever that the dark path will dominate your destiny, as proved time and time again by heroes like Anakin, Ben, and several others, that there is indeed a way back to the light, if we are willing and strong enough to embrace it. It's up to each of us to look within, to draw upon our own inner light and project goodness and kindness into our community and, by extension, the world around us. There will always be darkness, but if enough of us embrace the light, then maybe we can illuminate the path and help to be a beacon to others struggling to escape the darkness, both in Star Wars fandom and in the real world. I know this was a lot, so thanks for taking the time to read or listen. And as always, may the Force be with you. Thanks, Lou. May the Force be with you. These are some great, deep thoughts about the lessons of Star Wars and how they apply to actually talking about Star Wars. Ken, what are your thoughts?
Oh, I love it, man. Big Lou, this is great. And I think some of this, we have these kind of conversations where, look, I always try to find the right words myself to say it of this isn't, none of this is about, hey, you have to enjoy every little aspect of Star Wars. I think they hit home runs every time out and all that kind of stuff. But it's choosing what you want to do with those feelings, choosing how to express it. It's key, not just in Star Wars, just what you want to put out there in the world. And I've never been, I'm always grumpy in a way of Uncle Owen, a Hopper on Stranger Things kind of way. That's kind of my aesthetic. I get that. But, I've changed a lot last couple of years where it's just like, you're going to get out of this what you put into it. And I don't roll up my sleeves and go into Star Wars looking for a fight with the content. I focus on what's there, not just in the story, and the little things on the screen, but what it means for my own life. And that's something that it's always probably been there, but now it's a conscious effort every time I watch. And it's just, I enjoy living in that energy than the other options, and not all of them are wrong. And again, some podcasts are more about, hey, we're breaking it down and we're going over the director's decisions and how they shot this. And I have those conversations offline with friends, filmmakers who have a different view on the stuff like that. But here it's about letting myself continue to be inspired by Star Wars in a time where I need it, and I think the world needs it in our own ways. So I'm behind you, Lou, on this one here, and it's not always easy.
No, it's not, and I really agree with what you're saying, and I really agree with the way that Lou phrases this. Lou says, kind of fall into the dark side, quote, by means of hurtful words in a blatant disrespect for others. It is not about disliking a certain part of Star Wars or having critiques of a certain part of Star Wars, and I think that's a conversation that's been happening a lot, and I think it is, for me, it is about two things. One, it is about choosing anger, right? If you didn't like it, you could express it. You could not watch it. You could have conversations about, here's what I didn't like. Oh, you did like it. Okay, cool. And walk away, right? It's the anger. It's when it's a battle, right? That's the part that gets negative of like, this show is bad and anybody who liked it is wrong. And, this isn't real Star Wars. Star Wars should be the way I think it should be, and everything else is garbage. Like it's the expression of the critique that is the dark side to me. It's choosing anger in the means that you express yourself. And then I think for our podcast, I really like what you're saying. I think that we do have critical analysis. I think we do often say things that we don't like or we question, and then we move on, and we choose to put more of the emphasis on the things that we did enjoy and the things that we do celebrate, because we get to choose as fans, So like even with a show like Obi-Wan Kenobi, like, I have some questions about the story structure, that things that I think like, I think that's a valid criticism, and talking with a friend about it recently and made me think about some other things. Or like, I would have liked to see more happen with other Inquisitors besides Reva, things like that. But I don't want to spend this recording time raging. I want to express that, I have some criticisms and I have some what ifs, all those things. But then there's so much to love. Why not put the energy into that? And I think that is a big part of the choice of embracing the light side is, not ever saying that you can't question it, criticize it, dislike it, but where are you putting your energy, and what is that doing to yourself? What is that doing to the community?
Yeah. No, and I apply that in a lot of other ways in life, and how I'm choosing to entertain, write, perform, comedy, whatever. It's the big why behind it is something I ask myself when I can. Sometimes I like a good stupid joke. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. But to have meaning in this day and age where communication is happening every second of the day, I want to have my communications have something behind it that's built in the light and not in the dark.
Yeah, exactly. And other thing for me is I think Lou points out one of the potential dark sides, paths to the dark side in fandom. We know Anakin's story well. It's about fear of loss, right? And I think that we can sometimes, as fans, speaking sometimes for myself and sometimes for things I've observed, that we can have a fear of losing the Star Wars that we started with, right? Whatever Star Wars you start with, it helps you to define what Star Wars is to you. And then there can be this fear of loss of like, if it changes, it won't be my Star Wars anymore, right? And we've seen it across generations that, people internalize the parts of Star Wars they love. And often that's like the big weighty themes, the cool fights, or the romance, or the tragedy, or the big emotional things. And you can kind of watch generation after generation forget that it's always been silly. It's always been a little bit more attached to emotional canon than really strict logical canon, all these kind of things that have always been a part of Star Wars can sort of drop away. And I think for me, what I always want to embrace is change is hard. I mourn for some of my past fandoms. It'll never be like it was when the original trilogy came out. It'll never be like it was when the special editions came out. Now it's never going to be exactly the way it was when Force Awakens came out. But I want to embrace change and be excited for like what kinds of new fandom experiences are around the corner if I let myself embrace the new instead of being upset that it changed.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Excellent. Any other final thoughts in reaction to Lou's great Power of the Light side?
Oh, Lou, this was your third draft. You got there, buddy, because it was great.
Excellent. That is it for questions of the Force and additional Power of the Light side. Ken, where can people find us?
Hey, you can find us on Twitter at ForceCenter Pod. You can also go to our Instagram page and our YouTube page. We're putting additional content up there from time to time. Having a lot of fun doing that. We had the lessons from Little Leia up, working some other things. We have the in memoriams back in the day. Old databank brawls are still up there too as well. So check it all out on the YouTube page. Facebook page is ForceCenter Podcast. Podcast is available on Acast, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and more. If you can give us a rating and review if you want to, if you're there and the site allows you to, hey, go ahead and do it. It helps the show out. Merch available at tpublic.com/user/ForceCenter. And you can support us directly at patreon.com/ForceCenter. I'm at Ken Napzok or KenNapzok.com. Do have a stand-up date in the San Diego area for San Diego Comic-Con, American Comedy Company, not in the con, around the con in the Gaslamp District. So if you want information on that, it's on my website. Joseph, where can they find you?
Yeah, you could find me Twitter, Instagram, TikTok is at Joseph Scrimshaw. I have some more action figures to share on social media if you're interested. And of course, you can find all of my other adventures on my website, josephscrimshaw.com. I believe an appearance finally got confirmed, so I'll hopefully be advertising that soon. But for now, for myself, for Ken, for the last stand at the Lars homestead, this has been Questions of the Force.